Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Azerite armor has problems. Azerite armor has had tweaks. Azerite armor has been scaled up, down, left, right. Look, I'm going to be totally honest with you people. Azerite armor isn't the problem with Battle for Azeroth. It is a problem, but there are much, much bigger problems at stake here. And in the first part of a two-part series that I'll be bringing you this week, I'm going to be looking at the major problem with Battle for Azeroth. And that is simply that the world has nothing to offer. The recent problems with Azerite armor have actually been a bit of a blessing in disguise for Blizzard. You see, there's multiple things wrong with Battle for Azeroth. However, the community all seems to have converged on this one issue and got quite loud about it. So Blizzard listened and responded. Very badly indeed. And then they had another crack at responding, and this time they brought some tweaks and changes to the table. Emissary gear is now going to start scaling up, 355, 370. Same with Mythic Plus rewards as well. People's Azerite armor is going to feel more relevant, and probably more important, item levels are going to go up a bit, and so people feel as if their characters are getting stronger. This puts Blizzard in people's good graces for a very short period of time before they realise it's just a placebo and a smokescreen. Because no matter the fix of the Azerite armor, that doesn't fix the big problem, which to me is the outside world. We're 7 weeks into the expansion, nearly 8 weeks I believe, but the outside world has been almost irrelevant now for weeks. So why has the outside world failed so miserably in BFA? Is it some terrible design flaws by the actual developers themselves, producing content which just simply wasn't built to last? Or is there a bigger issue here? Is it more of a technological issue? The World of Warcraft, after all, is turning 14 years old very soon indeed. Is it simply a matter of the game engine can't handle the sort of game which we want to play in 2018? Well, to answer these questions, first of all, we have to look at exactly what the problems with the outside world are. The first major problem is forced world questing. You have no other choice but to do it. When you've done the respective storylines in your zones, the chances are you're probably around about the honoured reputation mark with your various factions. And so there are two ways to advance your rep after that. The first way is through this, doing world quests. If you don't do world quests, you don't increase your rep, and therefore you can't get exalted with the factions. And every single faction operates off the same principle. None of them differentiate whatsoever. World questing is one of two ways to get your rep up with them. And storylines can be hidden behind world questing as well. So if you don't do this, then you don't get the rep. And if you don't get the rep, you don't advance the storyline. And therefore, it becomes compulsory. Or you do the anti-content version, which is the command table, where you do absolutely nothing. Anti-content being the perfect term for the command table. Next up, we have the non-consequential element of world quests. I'm here, I'm killing Uraku, the Bound, for the 4th, 5th time this expansion. There's no consequence, it's repetitive. And if I'm doing the same stuff over and over again, and there isn't any change in the world, there's nothing which happens because I actually kill this creature, then what's the point? It is literally just something to do. And when it's just something to do, instead of something relevant or something important or something which is going to alter stuff or something which is going to make a difference, then why do I care? And the simple fact is I don't. I'm literally just recording this for you because you have something to look at on the screen. And then we have the most damning part of why the world is utterly failing. You see, first of all, we have all of these world quest markers, which are simply saying to you, hey, come here. This is where you need to go. What you're not seeing, of course, is this. Hey, everybody. All these areas in red are complete and utterly useless. Because that is what world quests are literally saying. This is where the stuff is. This is where the stuff isn't. Just look at how much space is being utterly wasted. Because the game doesn't have any sort of exploration. There's nothing there to find for people. Well, unless of course you want to open up a treasure chest and get a nice grey and some war resources. And that is the major issue. World quests are literally taking people to specific locations and not letting them stay for explorative reasons, to go discover, to try and find secrets, a reason to stay out in the world. You're literally bouncing from one pin on a map to another pin, to another pin, to another pin, while all of that goes to waste. And don't expect patch 8.1 to rectify any of these problems either. If I was to bring up the map, you can see by this and this and this that Incursions are using the same tech as Legion invasions. So they're not just going to feel similar, they're going to feel identical. It doesn't matter what coat of paint you put on it, it's exactly the same thing. More content from Legion copied and pasted into Battle for Azeroth. Once you've done a Legion invasion, you've done an incursion. There ain't going to be any difference whatsoever. So if you're a bit bored of them, then you're still going to be bored of them right now. And there ain't a lot that you can really do. Anything else brought into the outside world? No, just a few more world quests, according to Ian Hazakostas. So, is this a problem that all MMORPGs face? Is this not just related and specific to the World of Warcraft? Now, a few days ago, I brought you a video where I compared WoW with the Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy XIV, because they are the three MMORPGs which I'm currently subscribed to and playing right now. So if I was to go onto those two games and see how they deal with outside world content, are they going to have the same issues and problems that the World of Warcraft has? Well, the only way that we're going to find out is by going and seeing. So let's deal with Final Fantasy XIV first, because that is the most similar to the World of Warcraft, at least in terms of progression. When a new expansion comes along, a new area comes along, and in that area there are different zones, and in Final Fantasy XIV you go from zone to zone to zone while you're leveling up. Of course, in the World of Warcraft now, every zone does scale to yourself so you can pick and choose, but ultimately you have to go through each one anyway. But when you hit top level, Final Fantasy XIV doesn't operate a repeatable quest system. It doesn't believe in that really at all. In actual fact, one of the major things that will actually get you into the outside world, believe it or not, is gathering. You see, in Final Fantasy XIV, the crafting system is the most in-depth of any MMORPG by a country mile. It's treated with as much respect as a combat class. And so you're going to be out in the world gathering materials, not just for you to utilise when you're crafting, but also to sell on the auction house and make yourself a lot of gold early on. It's a very, very lucrative business indeed, is the crafting business in Final Fantasy XIV. However, what it does is it also tries to combine crafting and combat too. You see, your gathering elements of the game will allow you once a day to discover a treasure map. You will then open up said treasure map and see a location in a zone. You then have to try and find that location, which isn't too difficult, and then gather a team together, search for the treasure, which will then result in a bunch of ads spawning to try and defend it. Once those ads have been defeated, you can click onto the treasure chest and get your reward. But it's not over there, because there is a 50-50 chance, I think now, of a portal spawning when you open the treasure chest as well. And if you're fortunate enough to get one of these portals, then it will actually teleport you into a treasure dungeon. I did a video a couple of days ago about this winning the instance section of each of the 3 MMORPGs, and I didn't even remember to tell you about this, nor did I even remember to tell you about the Palace of the Dead and the new subsequent Palace of the Dead equivalent in Stormblood. That is how good the instance-based system is in Final Fantasy XIV. But that's just by the by. So, you take the party of people into the treasure dungeon, which, by the way, now has a chance, if the portal spawns, to take you to a brand new treasure dungeon on top of the treasure dungeon which is current, and on top of the other treasure dungeon in the previous expansion as well, which is still very lucrative indeed. Pauses for breath. And then you fight through mobs, you pick the treasure chest once the mobs have been defeated, and then you are positioned with 2 doors in front of you. One door will let you progress through. The other door will kick you out of the dungeon. And you have to try and guess which one. And so chance starts to play a part. And if you guess correctly, you can proceed. But, of course, Lady Luck won't always be on your side in this instance, and you might get kicked out in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th. But you can go up to 7 rooms. And the deeper you go into the dungeon, the more lucrative the rewards in the treasure chest become. So suddenly, gathering in the outside world has created a whole new form of content for you to participate in. But Final Fantasy XIV is always looking to push you forward, bringing new areas to the game all the time. We're 16 months into Stormblood, and we're already 4 patches deep, with patch 4.45 coming, and still a patch 4.5 to hit before the next expansion is even ready to come out. And that's one of the major things, when an expansion is always looking to push you forward, as opposed to just make you repeat over and over. There are other things to get involved with in the open world in Final Fantasy XIV too. There are hunts, which range all the way from small plebby creatures that you can tackle yourself, no problem whatsoever, all the way through to really tough enemies that you will have to have a group of people to defeat. Then there are fates, and fates are a group form of content where everybody will have a task to achieve, whether that's to escort somebody from A to B, and there'll be plenty of ambushes along the way, or whether or not you are defeating hordes of enemies, or killing creatures and looting items from them and handing them into an NPC, or just one massive creature that requires you all to chip in and defeat. But the most important thing is Final Fantasy XIV knows exactly what it is. It is an instance-based MMORPG. And so, whereas there are certain things to get on with in the outside world, it's always looking to bring you a new area and a new place to go, and it sets you a goal for that patch. And this is why it came top in the content section in the video that I did a few days ago. Because if a new patch comes along and the relic weapon is the thing which is getting dropped in that patch, then that patch focus will be work on that relic weapon. It will become very powerful for you. It's something good to achieve. Or in this expansion, you also have armor as well to go alongside it too. But it also understands that you don't want to be just grinding this out constantly. So another patch will come along and it'll bring a Palace of the Dead, an ever-evolving dungeon, which has 200 levels to go down. So every time you go into the dungeon, it's different. Each experience, each layout has been tweaked and changed. So you can't decide which way to go immediately. You'll just have to see how the dungeon itself evolves. So it's very clever, it's very concise, and it understands exactly what it is. It brings you content which it believes is focused and clear, not just content for the sake of throwing something in, like a world quest type situation. So if you saw my Versus video, then you'll know that the Elder Scrolls Online has treasure chests like WoW scattered all over the world. Apart from these are far more fun. They come in 4 different difficulty levels: simple, intermediate, advanced, and master. And because the world scales to you, the treasure chests are always relevant and therefore fun to open up and unlock with the lockpicking minigame. But they also have another treasure hunting feature that I never went into, and that is treasure maps. And these are really cool, because what happens is you'll get a treasure map, and if you look at the treasure map, it will actually identify a place, an area in that zone through an artistic sketch. Not much to go on, hey? And then you have to identify exactly where that is in the zone. Now, some of them might be obvious because there could be a very telling location or a very telling piece in that picture. But sometimes they can be pretty damn ambiguous, to say the least. And so where these areas are, who knows? But it sets you on an epic adventure to go around the zone and trying to match up where these treasure maps exist. And when you discover when they do, oh my god, it's like the stars align. And a bona fide aspect of this is exploration. Something that any MMORPG lover enjoys. And I'm talking about MMORPG lover. The RPG element being very, very important indeed. And having been in contact now with the ESO community for a little while, I was so happy to hear that they really love to do these treasure maps without the use of add-ons and without the use of guides. And then that moment comes when you've been dealing with a particularly troublesome treasure map where certain things start to align. Wait a minute. That tower looks awfully familiar. Yeah, that's the tower in the map. Wait a minute, that's the rock. There's the peak, and there are the 3 trees that are next to it. And there is the treasure. And so it's just such a cathartic feeling. It gives the player a real buzz, a surge of adrenaline, because you feel as if you've legitimately managed to achieve something. You've worked something out. Aren't you a clever boy? Have a treat. And that is exactly the type of feeling that you want to give the player of an MMORPG. In actual fact, that's the feeling you want to give a player in any type of game of this kind of ilk. But then, when you find the tree and the dirt mound, then you just dig up the treasure chest, and inside there'll be a plethora of goodies for you to get your hands on. Very, very satisfying indeed. Because even if you don't need the items, they can still be crushed down for very good materials, which can be used in the crafting system for Elder Scrolls, which isn't a slouch by any stretch of the imagination either. But you might find that upgrade, you might find that nice piece that you can swap out for something else, something different. Or you can just open up a treasure chest, get a grey, get some war resources. So we're seeing both Final Fantasy and Elder Scrolls Online bring some fun outside world content into their games. And I focused on treasure hunting because that's something I think which particularly hits a note with a lot of MMORPG players and RPG players as a whole. But did they utilize any special tech? Well, the answer is yes, they did. It's called an imagination. Because in Final Fantasy XIV, when it came to the treasure hunting, if you break it down to its common denominator, all they did was have a treasure map to a location, which anyone can do. You open up the treasure, you then defend the treasure chest, just killing mobs, and then you have the chance to proc a portal, an instance, to go inside and get involved in a treasure dungeon. Nothing that WoW couldn't do at all. The Elder Scrolls Online. How did that make treasure hunting exciting? Well, it made treasure chests relevant wherever you were in the whole world. And then it introduced treasure maps on top of that, which added a fun mini-game to the outside. Having some identifiable areas that are easy to get and make you feel as if you're pretty smart. And then having some real tough areas that are drawn on a map. That's all it was. Just a map. Like any game brings up when you press the M key. And then you identify where that is and discover the treasure. There was nothing technologically advanced about this. It was all there. Being creative and being imaginative. Couple of greys and some war resources. But there is something else that we need to discuss. Something very important indeed that can utilize the open world to its advantage. But we need a whole new video to discuss that. And so part 2 of this series will arrive on Thursday, where we're going to talk about player housing and what a vital role that plays in the open world. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links, they're in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.